Hi, welcome to Blind Sailing. Another chat with some of our volunteers. And this little episode is with some of our volunteers that may not always jump into the sailboats, but I cannot tell you how key these guys are to the charity. So I'm going to introduce you to Steve and Lucy. They are a married couple, so I can say Steve and Lucy Hull. So I'm just going to get them to say hi and where they're from.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen. Hollingworth Lake is my normal sort of club.
And I'm Lucy, I'm Steve's wife, and then we live sort of around Hollingworth Lake area.
Cool. And both of these guys, the story is we've got some volunteers, Gary and Ian, that have been around for longer than perhaps sailing's been around, but hopefully they'll listen to this and get a bit of a laugh. But both Steve and Lucy work down at the lake, and there's so many connections with Hollingworth Lake, including a club that supports blind sailing. So, Steve, you're not really into the flappy sail things. What do you like doing for the charity more than jumping in and pulling the ropes?
Well, I joined or started volunteering the charity through the powerboat side of things, so I enjoy getting out in the rib, and that involves taking people to and from boats to boats, looking after everyone day to day on the water, and that's sort of my sort of enjoyment.
Brilliant. And we'll touch on Lucy's in a minute. So it's really interesting, the rib stuff, isn't it? So transferring of VIs, looking after them. So you're not just there supporting us as safety. It's also sort of like the care for the VIs on the water. So some of our VIs need extra support. So you've been involved with also supporting learning about diabetes and carrying the scan equipment for Chris to make sure we maintain him. Well, how do you feel about taking a few extra responsibilities? Do you feel sort of like empowered helping the charity, even though you're not in the boat?
It's a strange one, that, because I get quite a good overview of everyone. So on the shore before we start, on the water pre-start, and then mid-race, during the race, I get to see people's levels and not just people that I know about, but others that might be get a bit stressed or a bit other issues. So you sort of get a good view of everyone.
Definitely. And I think your role, because you're not right in the boat, that bit you just said about being on shore, you can be there for other people, but and help and support. I think that's key. So I'll flick over to Lucy. So Lucy, again, Steve and Lucy are sailors. Lucy's a qualified instructor as well. But Lucy has Steve and Lucy have two lovely children, Oscar and Alice. I always have to question Alice because the other volunteer is Alice, so I don't know why. But so Lucy, the kids and you take the guide dogs out, and how does it feel being able to just volunteer that way and having your children involved?
So prior to having children, I was also involved in the sailing side of things. I did the odd training weekend and things like that, helping out. And then I think when we fell pregnant with Oscar, I felt a bit worried almost. I wasn't going to be able to get involved as much as I did do. Having said that, I think Oscar was 4 weeks old when we came down and did our first training weekend down on Cows. And then from that was like the first point then when you sort of said, oh, it's fine, there's lots of things you could do on the side and do this for me. So I was doing like the admin for the weekend and, like I say, taking the guide dogs for walks. And it's been nice for the children, I think, being able to grow up around just those extra opportunities, really, and being able to do the things that other children might not get the chance to do. And I know Oscar's always talking about Brian, and they're always asking when they can see her again, and we have to keep saying, after COVID, we'll be able to get together again. But I just love being able to still be a part of the charity, even though I can't now necessarily do the on the water stuff like we used to be able to do, just because of childcare reasons. We can't both be dashing about on the water, can we? So it's nice to be able to still be involved.
Yeah, and definitely we've been talking a little bit about with Ben and Johnny and some of the sailors about confidence that blind sailing can give you, and you've just started your own little enterprise. Do you want to just say what I've watched your confidence grow with us, but also now to this, there's been some transfer of skills from that too?
Yeah, so back in July last year, I started doing a body shop at home business. So through that, it's just pushed me out of my comfort zone, really. And like I say, I have grown in confidence lots, and I do think that is a transferable skill that I'll then be able to put back into other things, and hopefully blind sailing once we get to be able to see you again, because we've not seen you since February last year, I think it was. So it would be nice to be able to pass on those skills that I've gained to other people as well on the shore.
And definitely, I can say from some of the sailors as well that they've been thankful Lucy started Body Shop, because we're able to get in touch with her and ask questions about products that we wouldn't be always able to get hold of. Steve, you also, not just doing the ribs, you also help with the transport and getting everyone to and from everywhere. So you're a bit of the guy that's the all-rounder guy. What would you say to someone that wanted to come and volunteer and perhaps wasn't a sailor? I always feel that there's a role for everybody in the kitchen, having a cup of tea, making the lunches, and in the ribs, and even kitting and rigging up the boats. What would you say to someone if they, not a sailor and keep looking at us as a sailing charity? What would you be their advice about coming and volunteering?
I think that on that, the hardest thing is to say hello. But once you've done that, like you said, there is opportunities in every which way. When we went to Hollingworth, I did the same with my parents, that they came down and said hello. And next thing they're doing the galley, they're doing the cooking, doing the lunches, and I've never looked back, and they're always asking when you're coming. And I think there's every opportunity once you've gone over that boundary of saying hello to everyone, and I don't think it's a hard thing. Once you've done it, I think there is always an opportunity for whether it's crewing in ribs, logistically moving people, doing other things. There's always something there.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say, Lucy, if someone was listening to this?
I completely agree with what Steve said. So I think that saying hello is always quite often the hardest part, isn't it? Because you don't really know what you're going into. But the whole blind sailing community are quite possibly the nicest bunch of people I've ever met. Together as a whole, they're absolutely gorgeous, and each of the individual people are all really nice as well. And like Steve said, there is something for everybody to do, even if you've never set foot in a boat before in your life. There's other things you can do, and I think people could probably learn things themselves from that as well. By they could start sailing, they could start being a crew and things like that. It's just the most amazing experience to be part of it.
Yeah, and definitely. I think there's, like you say, even like Steve's dad helped us out financially. Lucy, you help us out with the secretariat role. There's not always lots to do, but it's just having someone there, from my perspective, with eyes as well. And we didn't pay Lucy to say that we're all lovely people. There's no present in the post or anything like that. But guys, if you're listening to this is just two people that volunteered through friends.
We kind of fell into it, didn't we, Lucy?
Yeah, definitely. And they've brought friends with them, and it goes like a roller coaster like that. So like Steve says, the first word's the hardest word, but I think once you're with us for life. And definitely. So guys, if you're interested in volunteering of any sort, you don't even have to come to the weekends. There's so many things that sometimes with us as busy lives, and quite a lot of us are young with young families. So if you're got a little bit of spare time and can sit and Google for us, there's lots of Google searches we need doing, simple things like that. But even coming and helping rigging the boat. So our website, www.gbrblindsailing.co.uk, or you can email us at blindsailing@yahoo.co.uk, or just find us on Facebook at Blind Sailing UK. And I've got to say a massive thanks for Steve and Lucy. Going to let them go back to their children. And thanks, Steve, and thanks, Lucy.